All right. The time is 6:30. I call the meeting to order. September 8th meeting of the Public Works Committee. I see we have a quorum. We have Alder Myers. Um, I'm going to draw blanks here. Should we just?
Yeah, I'll call attendance. Yeah. Chair Lang,
Present.
Alder Myers,
Present.
Member Noor,
Here.
Alder Madden,
Present.
and Member Bechtel.
Here.
Okay. Looking at the minutes, looks like last meeting you did not have quorum.
Correct. We did not have quorum last meeting, so we did not approve the minutes of August 11th. And minutes from last meeting, the 25th, are included in the packet. There wasn't quorum, so it wasn't, no action obviously was taken, but we included the minutes kind of as a courtesy.
So going back 2 meetings now, does anybody have any comments or edits from the minutes? The last 2 meetings?
But I do want to raise a point of information. The minutes from the month of July are not yet on base.
Okay, thank you.
Staff will upload those.
All right, so hearing no changes to the minutes, I approve them as recorded. And one agenda item is on the cell phone tower agreement.
Yeah, so the next agenda item would be
Is there anybody online?
yeah, Daphne from the city planning department just joined,
Okay.
but sure. We included a staff report. So that's in your packet, but happy to answer any questions across the various divisions. We just wanted to provide update on kind of things across Public Works.
Yeah, this is kind of related to the agenda item that came up a couple months ago where talking about communication. And I did see since then, you guys are posting on Facebook and probably the email notifications too. I think I saw.
Yep, definitely trying to keep those updates to our communications manager as much as possible. And then, right, I think if we can, we'll continue to have this practice of at least monthly staff updates to the committee just for your guys' information.
Okay. Is this adding to your work or is this something you're kind of doing anyway with the other modes of communication?
It's for me, it's not too bad. I guess I'll ask Luke, him and his
I don't
staff.
think these are really that big of an issue. It's just general updates on the projects.
Yeah. So it's not a huge lift for staff. So
Okay.
and as long as the committee finds them useful, we'll continue to do it. So
Okay. I'm more than satisfied with this. So if anybody have any comments.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for timeline purposes. And
Agreed. And because we get questions, so it's
yeah,
sure.
get where we're at. And
Yeah, we try and make it a mix of, right, obviously engineering has a bunch of actual kind of capital projects that we're working on, and then Public Works and water utilities sometimes have more maintenance items, but if there's any major items that come up, we want to note them. So
yeah, I'd actually recommend having the circulation via the Public Works Committee and Common Council because Kim and I are not the only two members of council who get constituent questions about these things.
sure,
It might cut down the number of email forwards you get.
I can certainly do that.
I do have a question on that Century Avenue, Allen Street signal light project.
Yep.
Is that going on schedule?
It is a little over schedule right now, or past it's our anticipated deadline. Everything is in place right now. We're waiting on MG&E to de-energize the traffic control cabinets, get the new ones installed, and then switch the power switch back on. So it's with MG&E being the sole provider, we're kind of at the whim of them. But we're hopefully this week we can get things moving along and wrapped up. But Pavement is done. They were wrapping up pavement markings today as well. So the intersections are at least open for pedestrians and accessible. And any lane closures that were happening today was just for paint, for contractor to come in and paint. So, yeah.
Myers?
Yeah, just the new traffic control devices will have leading pedestrian interval programming, right?
I believe so, yes.
Wonderful.
Have one, sorry.
Leading pedestrian interval programming. Luke, if you want to explain the benefits to anyone who watches afterwards. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I guess it just gives pedestrians more leeway to get across the intersection. I guess if we're just trying to get a base level here.
Pretty much they get out into the intersection before it turns green.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's all red.
Oh, okay,
Pedestrians,
It comes on.
Yeah.
So they can go before it's green.
okay,
pedestrians start before cars.
Makes them more
Yeah.
easily seen.
Yeah.
Easily seen, or when I'm crossing the street with my almost 2-year-old, it gives us a little bit of time to.
More comfortable getting established in the intersection.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments on this before we move on to the next? I think we can move on.
So the next agenda item is, I guess, did you want to introduce it or you want me to introduce it?
Go ahead.
Okay,
It's
okay.
related to the cell phone.
Yep, so this is an agenda item number 4 is the cell lease, T-Mobile cell lease on the water tower that is located off High Road next to Northside Elementary School. So T-Mobile or its affiliate, or previous iteration, I should say, has had this lease on this water tower since 1997. About 3 years ago, my predecessor and other public works staff discussed with the Public Works Committee, Finance Committee, and Common Council about the renewals for these lease contracts. I guess I can back up a second. So cell phone companies install their equipment on water towers. It's obviously it's a high structure that is kind of available, that they don't have to own the land, that they can lease from municipalities. From a city perspective, right, that space isn't necessarily being used for things, right? The tower's there, but this equipment doesn't have any adverse impact on the operations for the water utility. So it's kind of a win-win situation. These leases have begun to expire. I believe last year was the first lease that expired with a different cell phone provider. So T-Mobile's lease expired in 2024, and they've since been on kind of 1-year renewals. Staff, when they first came to Public Works, Finance, and Council, kind of asked for direction, and the direction was to get common terms for all providers. So, right, you're not having to mix and match. You just have one kind of template statement or template lease that you can give to the carriers and say, this is what the city of Middleton requires from anyone who wants to be a tenant on our water tower. Couple of highlights that are in your packet. Lease payments are $35,000 a year to be paid annually. The rent escalation is 12.5% per 5-year term. And kind of goes into detail in terms of the number of antenna they're allowed, and what, if it goes beyond that, what their additional rent will be. So this lease has been reviewed by both the city attorney and the finance department. So they've kind of given their sign off. This is many months in the work. This began before I got to the city. So this is kind of the culmination of that effort. So staff recommend that Public Works Committee, acting as the board of directors, as the water utility, approve this T-Mobile lease to the finance and personnel, as well as the Common Council. Also in your packet is a copy of the lease that at this point is in draft format. You can pull up the agenda if that's helpful for everybody as well. So yeah, happy to answer any questions, but right, staff recommends.
Thank you.
Move to approve, to recommend to approve and pass on to city council and finance.
With that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll start discussion. Alder Myers, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just, the 12.5%,
Mhm.
are we sure we can't get more that potentially leaves us below inflation over a 5-year span?
I am not sure, and I'm probably I could reach out to our city finance director. I think these were the terms of the lease that with it was either AT&T or Verizon that I'm sorry we wanted to mirror the terms from that lease as well. I can certainly reach out to our finance director, kind of get his opinion on it, and then if that's the direction of the body, we could certainly propose that back to T-Mobile. But that's kind of what was in the lease that had been negotiated thus far.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we don't go below inflation.
Sure.
Prior to this, did we have an inflation rate?
I do not know what the prior rent escalation was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we did, because
Yeah,
I think that was one of the
not,
things that
yeah.
we talked about it in common council.
Yeah.
Was that there wasn't a rate escalation at all, and that we were kind of going from these year-to-year leases and to the 5-year instead of the single year.
Sure.
Okay, I have no objection to passing this on. I just wanted to
Yeah.
raise that as a concern here so that finance knows that we want to make sure that we're
Totally fair. Well, and if, if Bill looks at it and finance and personnel and checks, because it's something that we
Sure.
recognize, we can review it in council as well. I think this is pretty consistent with the.
yeah, I'd be surprised if signing lease.
Yeah.
There are interesting federal laws there too, so.
I had a question I don't know if it's for you, Ben, or for somebody from council, if anybody's looked in any safety concerns about the towers or if the antennas being close to the school there. Do you know if that has come up at all in the past, or if somebody's done any case study on the distances between
Sure.
the antennas and the school?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard any concerns be raised or seen any literature, at least within our documents, that kind of discuss that.
Yeah, I'd be curious,
Sure.
I know it's been there for a while now.
Yeah.
And,
Do I look okay?
yeah, you're.
I'm very close to that tower.
And I didn't do any research on this at all. I just have some hesitancy about it.
Sure.
My daughter goes to school there and
Mhm.
it's very close.
I would be more worried about the power.
Power lines, yeah. We are, but everybody uses power and everybody uses cell phones. So it's
Yeah.
That's true.
Alder Myers?
Yeah, I just had one question, which I planned on asking Mike Meyer, but Luke, you're here. Section 1B, landlord reserves the right to require tenants to permanently relocate its facilities once during any 10-year period at tenant's expense to a location on the tower provided. Another location on the tower provided it's a result of a governmental requirement. I assume that's all maintenance related. Are we confident that we will only need to request that once in the 10-year span?
Probably for painting.
That's what I was gonna guess. It would
Yeah.
be for painting, which
Yeah,
only happens,
probably even more than 10 years. between
Yeah,
the
so
two.
it just might happen during,
Okay,
that would be my guess, why that's.
but there's no other potential maintenance that we might need to do in this part of the tower that you can think of.
Not that I can think of that would require moving.
Okay, great.
Okay, any more discussion? Questions? Not, I think we can vote. All those in favor of, let's see, Public Works Committee acting as the Board of Directors of the Water Utility recommend approval of the T-Mobile lease to Finance and Personnel Committee and Common Council. Please say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Okay.
And next agenda item is our joint meeting with Ped Bike and Transit. So we talked earlier, I think we're gonna not do it on the 22nd, right?
Correct. So the meeting that was kind of pre-scheduled for September 22nd has already been canceled. That conflicts with two religious holidays. So we will need to reschedule that meeting. I'm open to options if staff have preference, or sorry, if the committee has a preference, or I can send out a doodle poll so people can kind of pick what fits best for their calendars. Daphne is here, and I think the Plan Commission's meeting on the 23rd would be rescheduled. Would that work, Alder Myers, or is that also in conflict?
The 23rd, yeah, that's so Rosh Hashanah starts sundown the 22nd, it's the 23rd, 24th.
Got it. Got it.
The 29th, Monday the 29th, eventually that would.
Actually, that was what I would suggest too, because that's a fifth Monday when there is typically no other city meetings scheduled.
Yeah, there isn't a council meeting that night.
Right, and there's no council meeting that Tuesday, because that's the 30th, so. It's only when there's public works and common council, that's a pretty heavy lift for two of us in the same week.
Sure.
Try to avoid that if possible.
I'm not sure I can make that date, but I don't think we need like full attendance, right? I mean,
We do need more though.
Well, yeah. I will be out of town that day, but I
Ah.
think Luke can guide the ship. So
I'll be in charge though, so it'll be.
Yeah,
There you go. Yeah, I'll just sit in the corner.
We'll be good.
Why don't we get a few options
Yeah.
together and send out a doodle poll?
Yeah,
and
we'll
see
do that.
between Ped Bike and Transit and us, what is going to be the best for everyone.
That sounds good. Yeah, Daphne and I, we can coordinate that, right, Daphne? Okay.
And just a heads up, October 1st and 2nd are Yom Kippur, so I will definitely.
Yeah, nope, gotcha.
No other Jewish members will either.
Just take 2 months off. Is that how it works?
Our high holidays are a little bit intense.
I just like breakfast.
Oh, yeah. You have no idea how much I like that part. After 26 hours, I am ready.
Yeah, I mean, even if we had to reschedule that for the first one.
Okay. We will we'll send out some options and then poll the committee, but also just wanted to get any feedback from the committee members now if anybody has potential agenda item topics that you want staff to have come prepared for the joint meeting, whenever that is. If not, we can you can piecemeal it if you feel free to email us or anything. Yep.
I would like to talk about Parkwood Plaza on Park and University as a location where there's no pedestrian entry points at all. It's pretty geared around cars from every entrance. So if you were walking with a stroller or a wheelchair, you would have to enter through the same place as a car is coming out. And just as this is a location that I'm very familiar with, but I think just talking about how the city wants to approach that from a ped bike and transit safety perspective, or not, or if other people have opinions about that.
Yeah, I think when we talked in Ped Bike and Transit about this, like what we wanted to see, or part of what we wanted to see in this meeting, was actually bringing maps along with it, looking at like, hey, where are there discontinuities in between bicycle infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure? Where are the missing links? That's definitely one of them, right? And so I think bringing that up as part of the larger active transportation plan discussion will be important. So keep that in mind. Like if there are other places in the city that you guys are like, hey, I know that this is a gap that I see or experience all of the time, and bring that along, because we're gonna hopefully mark up some maps and talk about like, hey, how can we improve our infrastructure?
Okay, sure, that's great.
I know Mark's retired from the city, but is he still on the committee? Mark Coates.
He's no longer on the committee since he retired, but I mean he's provided us with a lot of input on what to go into these draft maps that Alder Madden was talking about. And so we'll have, at least two or three up like maps for you guys to look over. Like big maps printed out where you can, add Sharpies and add all your comments onto those things. So that's definitely one of the things that we have planned for our joint meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Paul Myers?
No, he has a long history, and I just wanted to make sure.
For sure.
We have our complete streets policy, which lays out a number of broad policy goals and objectives and suggestions for staff training, staff interaction. But we don't actually have an implementation guide for it.
Mhm.
And that can cause issues, like when we're weighing, as happened on this committee earlier this year with the Franklin, and late last year with Franklin Street reconstruction project, when we are evaluating 5 raised crosswalks at a cost of over $300,000 of storm sewer upgrades. It looks to us as a public works body and as the board of directors for the water sewer utility, that we have a fairly important choice to make in terms of being responsible financial stewards for that utility. The utility is not actually explicitly mentioned anywhere in the complete streets policy. It is the single largest omission, actually, because of the amount of storm sewer work that's needed on certain streets in order to put in certain pedestrian and bicyclist friendly features. So it would be helpful for us if, as the Public Works Committee, we had some sort of implementation rubric that we worked on with Ped Bike and Transit, where we could say, okay, this is an allowable overage where we are comfortable bumping potentially certain projects to future years if financially viable, or reshuffling in order to make these improvements, instead of just, we know that we want to make sure that the elementary school students who cross near Franklin are visible, and that's the expenditure that we know we can prioritize while still replacing the century-old laterals. I'd like to see us discuss getting an implementation plan put forward and getting meaningful staff support, because right now I know Tad's been working on it for Ped Bike and Transit, but it's kind of unfair of us to put all of that on an unpaid volunteer. We have staff capacity.
Yeah, I would second that. That interesting that you say that, because I was going to slot that into future meeting agenda items, is coming up with an implementation plan, much like we did with sustainability, so that we have some rubric, some guideline as to how we make those decisions. But I love the idea of putting that as part of the Ped Bike Transit Joint Committee, because they've got ideas and good ones, and I'd love to have that as part of that. It's great.
Yeah, and I wonder, going off of that, we have been working on, like, one of the aspects of the complete streets was a complete streets during construction policy. And so a lot of that, I know you guys have been talking a lot about, communication during construction projects and all of that. And so hopefully something like that, like a policy guide, can help in the future for any future projects on what to do on that end. And then as part of the active transportation plan, we're also working on just a general like best practices guide. So it has, all of these typical standard or interventions that we can do on streets, protected bike lanes or just a regular bike lane, all of that stuff. And it comes with specifications for the engineering side of it, where it's like, these are standard widths, that we can use. So that way in the future, when you guys are doing, reconstruction projects or resurfacing projects, you can just look at that guide and, know, these are just kind of standards to be put in place. So hopefully that can kind of spur that conversation and help, build what you were talking about, Alder Myers.
Does anybody else have any agenda items for that meeting? Okay,
I will follow up with the doodle poll tomorrow, and we can I'll get a sent out to this committee as well as Pet Bike and Transit.
How often do those joint meetings take place? Is it like
Twice a year.
Twice a year.
Twice a year is the kind of minimum, and then if we need to do more, we'll do more, but.
You're setting up that doodle poll. I sent you the
Yes,
calendar.
yep.
all right, our next item is liaison briefings. Conservancy Lands Committee, Mary, did you have a meeting since?
Yes, we did. We had a meeting and on the last Wednesday of August. So the things to report, we talked about releasing the permanent pathway easement for the Hines Woodland Trail. I know this isn't directly, it's not a public sidewalk, but it was a connector behind the Middleton Shores property. And the reason that the Parks and Rec Director, Kylie Scherer, brought that up was that the easement at the time it was put in place in 2009. It provided a pedestrian connection between Pheasant Branch Conservancy and Century Avenue from Marina Drive to Ellen Court. However, with the construction of the North Mendota path, this connection becomes unnecessary because there's another way for pedestrians to access it. So I know this wasn't like a public works easement, but because we talked about easements, it jumped to mind. So I just wanted to let you know that everyone, or there's motions and seconded and everyone was in favor of releasing that easement. So that's not something that we have to look at going forward as a works committee. And then the other items that came up were discussions about the Confluence Pond, North Fork and South Fork. There's a lot of discussion about vegetation management plans, and none of the things that were discussed jumped out to me as like specifically public works related, but because they can sometimes go hand in hand, wanted to bring that up. And then another item of discussion was the Graber Pond draft plan, which has been had public meetings in the past, I would say 6 weeks. There's been public meetings, and then the Conservancy Lands Committee has now seen it twice. There's been public comments and such too. I don't think there's anything that we need to act on with that, but if you're interested, I think it's relevant also because there's a relationship between the watershed and I know that the Graber Pond is separate from that, but just kind of the water management in the city. And then item 4 was the Bach Units Master Plan, which is available for viewing, and then we're going to look at and have a discussion about at the next meeting. So just things that are interesting to note, none of which are like specifically related to public utility, but there is always overlap between the conservancy lands and management. So I don't know if that came up in your water management. I feel there's probably, yeah. You probably have a more detailed sort of summary of that than me.
There was a lot of wordsmithing.
It was a lot of wordsmithing, and I wrote this down because I was like, I don't even know. There was a lot of like big talk about plants, even that I was like, oh my gosh, I am not fully aware of all of the different places that.
And that would be the gist of our meeting, is we had what seemed like hours, and I think it was hours of discussion on wordsmithing of the document.
Okay.
I don't know how far that's taken, but these were suggestions by the committee. So, and it was, interesting, but like I said, too long.
Do you got anything else, Don?
No. I'm sorry.
Right.
Sorry, I left you in.
I figured we'd stick with you since you transitioned. I'll go to Kim if you want to have.
Right, well, and it's totally fine because I'm not actually the liaison there is no liaison to pedestrian, bike and transit. I've just been keeping you guys abreast as a courtesy because I'm on that committee and I think it makes sense for somebody to report back. But I think we haven't had a meeting since then, but we'll have our joint meeting. And I think that will address a lot of the concerns that we've talked about.
Thank you. All right, next is future meeting agenda items. I'll go around the room. Kim, do you have any?
Not today.
Mary?
I am just curious about the update on the simplified rate case discussions, how that went down with the finance committee and kind of where everyone's at.
Yeah, so the Finance Committee and Common Council both voted to authorize staff to submit the rate case and actually um, pull up. We will be in terms of timeline. A couple of things in order to comply with Public Service Commission, the utility needs to notify customers. So the intent is that staff will be mailing out the notification on September 30th. And then from there, we kind of go through the process with the Public Service Commission. So that's kind of where it's at. So we'll be notifying customers at the end of the month.
You still want that as an agenda item, or did you?
I mean, that was a good summary if that we all look for it in the mail and follow along, I guess.
Okay. I don't have anything, Don.
Nothing.
Alder Myers.
Incorporating by reference the policy that we developed for pedestrian access at areas underground road work into the city's contract with contractors once we have that policy developed. So in the distant future,
Okay.
but hopefully
Yeah.
not too distant.
Well, and that's why I said not the, I mean, ultimately, I would like for us to do a more deep dive review into particularly Century and Allen and where those deficiencies were and how we can address them. I don't think that needs to be for the next meeting. The project isn't even finished yet, but just put it on your radar. It may not be for the next meeting, but I will definitely want to do that over the non-construction season.
Sure.
I have one worry. Uh, discussing potentially adding additional staff in the Public Works Department and evaluating that as part of the city's staffing study. It's shown in our discussion and some ideas.
Yep, that's fair.
Anything else? Charles.
Would that mean Ben comes to us with a recommendation so we can go forward with that recommendation to that committee? Me, we can discuss it all we want to, but yeah, we all agree we need staff. And it ultimately ends up in finance's hand that says, well, find me the money.
So
So I
Now-
need to know what we're going to be discussing in that topic.
okay. So in that topic, we would be discussing strategies for advocating for the department's needs within the context of the city's staffing study. The city is conducting a large scale cross-department staffing study.
I think we've reached the end of our posted agenda, so we will adjourn the meeting at 7:03. Thank you, everyone.